Wednesday marks 1 year since a massive explosion at Beirut's port destroyed nearly half of Lebanon's capital. The explosion killed more than 200 people and left thousands more wounded or homeless. It's worsened the plight of millions of people who are struggling to survive amid high unemployment and inflation. And as Mobin Nasir reports, many people are still waiting for help and to find out who's responsible.
This was the moment that devastated the lives of hundreds of thousands of people in Lebanon's capital. A stockpile of 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate stored at Beirut's port exploded, and the shockwave created by the blast caused extensive damage across large parts of the city. Lina Merjanian was in the neighborhood when the blast occurred.
We heard an airplane flying over us very fast, and then there was the explosion, the big explosion.
A year later, although investigations by independent watchdogs and international rights organizations have implicated the Lebanese government, no senior officials have been held accountable, and that's left many Lebanese frustrated.
On the first anniversary of Beirut's port explosion, I would prefer it not to be just an anniversary. I hope all the people who pulled together through it and to know who caused the explosion. It shouldn't be an anniversary. It should be a revolt on August 4th.
Lebanese citizens who were harmed by the explosion want truth. Truth cannot be obtained. They are obstructing it month by month. 5 days after the explosion, the Interior Minister said truth won't take a long time. 1 year on, and nothing has been disclosed. All Lebanese people have burning hearts and want to know the truth.
But the people were suffering long before the explosion. Just 2 weeks before it occurred, Lena was among thousands of people laid off by the American University of Beirut's medical center.
We don't have work, we don't have money, we cannot provide for ourselves, we don't know where we are going. There's no government, there's no rules.
Lebanon's economy has been spiraling downwards for years. State coffers are empty and national debt now exceeds $90 billion. The Lebanese pound has lost 90% of its value against the US dollar since 2019. That sent food prices soaring by 700% over the same period, and almost half of the population are now living below the poverty line. Supplies of food, fuel and medicines are also running low, and many people rely on charities and welfare organizations to get by. Economists say years of mismanagement and corruption have debilitated the economy.
There is no real economy. And so when we say Ponzi scheme, is that the whole economy was basically fueling consumption through the deposits of either Lebanese diaspora or money coming from Europe, from the Gulf, that could invest in Lebanon for high returns on investment. But this high return was based literally on a bubble, which was the public debt. And so, of course, now it came to an end. It's like the credit card is finished.
Political stability is just as elusive. The government resigned soon after the explosion, and a new cabinet is yet to be sworn in.
We wanted the people to feel that after a year of having no government and no state, that a government has been formed and that there is indeed a state, because for the past year there has been no state. Our role was for us to stand beside them on August 4th.
For Lena and millions of others, the lack of government accountability or assistance means hardships keep on piling up. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Let's get more on this now with Sami Nader, who joins us from Beirut. He's the director at the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs. Good to have you back with us, Sami. Now, activists accuse Lebanon's ruling class of obstructing the investigation into the Beirut blast, which, as we know, has led to more than 24 arrests, but not of any minister or senior officials. That's because they've been protected by an immunity that politicians have refused to remove. What are they afraid of finding? Why do they insist on protecting the political class from this investigation?
I think because the country is run by a kind of a mafia, If one is shown as responsible, that means the whole team will be revealed, and so they are trying to coalesce in order to hide the truth. Now they are brandishing the immunity that is giving to MPs, but bear in mind that the immunity is not working when it comes to a crime. So immunity can only function during the exercise of the MP work. So they are using the judicial system to their advantage to protect themselves. It is now very clear that this ruling class is obstructing the justice processes, and in that sense they are fully responsible of obstructing the justice, and obstruction is like a testimony of a direct responsibility. But once more, there is a responsibility for the international community, because we had international investigators on the ground from different countries, but up to now, the result of their investigation were not made public, and it's in the interest of the Lebanese population to get this kind of very important information. It does not belong to this Lebanese state that has lost any kind of legitimacy since 2019 after this uprising of the Lebanese population, all the more that the international community is not trusting these authorities to distribute one box of milk, one bag of rice. They are going through a parallel channel, they are going through NGOs, they are admitting that this is a corrupt class, and on the same time that they are not revealing the result of the investigation that they have been conducting. And one last message regarding this issue is there is honest judges who are doing their work. I'm pointing at Judge Bitar, and he needs the support of the international community and he's getting the support of all the Lebanese population demonstrating today, who took it to the street. But he needs as well the full support of the international community, because he's under threat, in my view.
And just in terms of the international community's response, in the last few minutes, Joe Biden has pledged $100 million in aid to help Lebanon. Emmanuel Macron has also pledged 100 million euros. But I want to ask you about the economic situation in Lebanon. The World Bank has described it as perhaps one of the worst, or the top 3 economic crises of the last 150 years, which is an incredible finding. But I'm wondering, what do Lebanon's leaders need to do to get Lebanon out of its dire economic situation? We know it's only been made worse by the pandemic. We're getting pledges of hundreds of millions of dollars in new aid. What do the leaders need to do now?
The leaders need to have a plan and to carry out the reforms in order to get the international assistance. The good news is that the international community is ready to help Lebanon. The bad news is the ruling class today is not able of forming a government that is capable of achieving these reforms, because this international assistance is conditioned by the implementation of the reform. And up to now, the number one step has not been achieved, which is to form an independent government capable of achieving the reform. But more broadly, what these Lebanese leaders need to do is to have, a plan to go to the IMF, because Lebanon cannot not to go to the IMF. This is the only possible way in order to inject important liquidity into the system in order to revive the economy and to ensure the basic needs of a population that does not have, as you were saying in the introduction, that does not have what is required to buy medicines, to buy fuel oil, to have the electricity, to buy the bread. These are important needs, basic needs, and we don't have the liquidity in order to finance them. This is why the program with the IMF is key, is crucial, and this is what Lebanese leaders need to do. Have a plan, go to the IMF, implement the reforms, and to do that, Lebanon needs an independent government, because this political class cannot form this kind of government capable of getting Lebanon out of the crisis.
Okay, Sami Nader from the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs. It's always good to get your analysis. Thank you again.